All right, let's have a look at passage 4, questions 13 to 16. This passage talks about America's teenagers, America's adolescents, and how they're not doing well. Then the author tries to explore what are the reasons that they're not doing well, right? So the author quotes two psychologists, psychoanalysts, Erik Erikson and later on Freud, to explore the reasons as to why they are not doing well. Okay, so for instance, Erikson said that the danger for them was diffusion when they needed identity, right? So there were a lot of contradictions, conflicts that they were facing. Okay, then this it said that these conflicts can actually make them depressed, right? Can also result in psychosomatic illnesses. This was Erickson's view, right? This is what he surmised from his work with patients in the hospital. Later on, he talked about how what will happen when the world becomes more globalized, when there is a technological revolution. So he talked about this in the 1950s. So the author says that what he talked about in the 1950s now appears to be very prophetic, as if it's coming to be true. Then there's an example of a person B given to us where she's confused about her identity. She or he is, no, she's confused about her identity. I don't know the pronoun that she uses. Then we talk about how identity politics also comes into the equation. Okay, how it comes into the equation when we talk about America's teenagers. Then we give the views of Freud. That Freud talked about how it was a decisive time for teenagers, right? And how this is what separated them. Adolescence is what separated them from previous generations. And or if those issues were perhaps not addressed, then on the other side of the adolescence, a person could be psychiatrically ill. So these are the issues that are discussed in this passage broadly. That America's teenagers are not doing well, then exploring some reasons behind it, and giving the views of two psychoanalysts, Erikson and Freud. Let's have a look at question 13. According to Erikson, American adolescents in the 1950s were A. Grounded in a particular type of specification, extremely malleable as far as identity goes, exposed to cross cultural influences, exposed for the first time to immigrants. So let's have a look at these things, right? Grounded in a particular type of specification. Specification would could be related to identity or basically any other specification. Let's have a look if this is the case. We are talking about adolescence in the 1950s, so definitely we'll go back to the views of Erikson. So Erikson said that the danger for American adolescents was diffusion when they needed identity. Okay, so they were perhaps not grounded. Let's read further. Deep down, he felt that they lived through a series of extreme contradictions. So definitely they were not grounded in one specification then. Okay, contradictions between the open roads of immigration and jealous islands of tradition. While we do mention immigration, it's not given that they faced immigration for the first time. They were exposed to immigration for the first time. This is not given to us. So option D gets eliminated. Outgoing internationalism and defiant isolationism. Boisterous competition and self-effacing cooperation. To name a few, only loosely held together. Our identity isn't grounded. It isn't grounded. So grounded in any specification, eliminated. So A and D both eliminated. Our identity isn't grounded in accrued cultural sensibilities, but rather the unstable ideal of being able to choose in any direction at any moment. So they could choose any identity out there, right? That was what characterized the adolescents in 1950s. So now let's have a look at our options again. A and D we have eliminated. Exposed to cross-cultural influences. See, we do talk about internationalism, but cross-cultural influences cannot really be inferred from just internationalism, right? So, therefore, while this is questionable, this is something that is given to us. So, an unstable ideal of being able to choose in any direction at any moment. Malleable also means that you can be easily influenced. You're very pliable, very flexible. You can go in one direction at one moment and in another at another. So B is what is substantiated by that paragraph. A and D rejected, C not given. Okay, And in my opinion, this was a direct question, easy question.